Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel Logic Medico. Today's topic for presentation is development of the larynx. So the larynx or the voice box, how it is developed, how the cartilages and muscles are developed, you are going to see in this video. If you are new to my channel, kindly subscribe to my channel and press the bell button to get the latest notification of the videos. So development of the larynx or the voice box can be done under the following heading: the larynx cartilages and the muscles and an anomaly called as tracheoesophageal fistula. These are the objectives for today's presentation. So first of all, this is the embryo, this is the head fold of the embryo, and this is the tail fold of the embryo. There will be one huge sac behind the embryo, that is called amniotic cavity, and the sac which is in front of the embryo is called as a yolk sac that will be drawn into the embryo to form the gut. That part of the yolk sac within the head fold is called as foregut. That part of the yolk sac within the tail fold is called as hindgut, and that part of the yolk sac within the two lateral folds, like the jacket like thing is there, two lateral folds, so between that it's called the midgut. So our larynx develops from this area, that is that part of the yolk sac within the foregut. So larynx develops from the endoderm of the foregut. It's nothing but yolk sac derivative. So larynx develops from the head region of the embryo. Next. So what happens to the yolk sac which is there within the head fold, which is called as foregut? It develops into the GIT, and that portion of the GIT over here will be called as pharynx and esophagus. So the larynx develops from the ventral wall of the pharynx as an groove. It's called as laryngotracheal groove. This is the groove which is forming over there. This happens at the 4th week of intrauterine life, when the embryo stage is 4 weeks. There is an outgrowth of the endoderm. From which wall? From the ventral wall, the anterior wall of the pharynx. Okay, that is called as laryngotracheal groove. So larynx ultimately develops from the endoderm of the foregut. Subsequently, in the larynx development, what happens? The ventral wall of the primitive pharynx further deepens to form one huge diverticulum. One huge outpouching will come. It's called as laryngotracheal diverticulum. If you remember this word, a laryngotracheal diverticulum, then everything will go over. The laryngotracheal diverticulum, the upper portion of it will give rise to larynx, the lower portion of it will give rise to trachea. Later it will become bifid, means two bulges will come in that. It's called the lung buds. So the lowermost portion of the laryngotracheal diverticulum give rise to lung buds, which give rise to lung. So in this larynx development, the groove deepens in such a way, this groove, laryngotracheal groove, which deepens in such a way it will grow further downwards. When it is growing further downwards, the edges of this wall is there, na? The pharyngeal wall. The edges will fuse with one another to form one septum. That septum is called tracheoesophageal septum. So why it's called tracheoesophageal septum? Meaning already we have esophagus here. So this laryngotracheal diverticulum ultimately forms the larynx in upper part and trachea in the lower part, right? So when there is larynx in upper part and trachea in the lower part, between this esophagus and the future trachea, there will be one septum growing like this. Please observe, see like this. So that is called This is called laryngotracheal diverticulum, and this septa is called tracheoesophageal septa because this septa separates the windpipe trachea from the foot pipe called esophagus. This tracheoesophageal septum is oriented vertically and coronally, meaning it divides the body into two planes, anterior plane and a posterior plane. So anteriorly there will be trachea and posteriorly there will be esophagus. I hope you understood this septa carefully. Tracheoesophageal septa. How the septa forms? When this deepens, the walls of the pharynx, edges of this will come and fuse with one another. Ultimately a septa is formed, separating the trachea from the esophagus. This septa is very important. Please remember this. It's called tracheoesophageal septum. So what happens? Subsequently, if this tracheoesophageal septum is not oriented properly, if at all it will be oriented in some other manner, then there will be a congenital anomaly. Normally, the tracheoesophageal septum, as already I told in the previous slide, it's oriented in a coronal plane, a plane which divides the body into two halves, the anterior half and posterior half. So here anteriorly trachea will be there. So this portion will become the future trachea, and posteriorly esophagus will be there. So this trachea should be oriented coronally. So this tracheoesophageal septum becomes important to understand the congenital anomaly. So what is that congenital anomaly? If at all the tracheoesophageal septum is oriented in some other plane like this, like an oblique plane, let's say the oblique plane, what happens? There is a connection, cross connection between trachea and esophagus. An abnormal tract is formed, an abnormal tube is formed between the trachea and esophagus. It is called as tracheoesophageal fistula, because connecting this trachea with this esophagus, one abnormal tract has come. Because of the septa is oriented in a different plane, it's called as tracheoesophageal fistula. That is the congenital anomaly due to different orientation of tracheoesophageal septum. At fifth week of intra-uterine life, what happens? There is a formation of laryngeal opening. Around this laryngeal opening, there is a formation of three swellings will form. One of the swelling is there in a median plane. It is called hypobranchial eminence. Okay, it is derived from fusion of third and fourth arch. The third arch, inner surface, these are all on the inner surface of the pharynx. Okay, the third arch contributes to the formation of posterior one third of tongue. Don't worry about that. The caudal half, the lower half of the hypobranchial eminence, forms one swelling. It's derived from fourth arch. There will be two another swellings here. They will be called as arytenoid swellings. So the details of this we'll see. So what are the three swellings around the laryngeal opening? One, hypobranchial eminence. Hypo because it's on the, this is the down of the pharynx. It's going underneath the pharynx. So when you're going through a down, suddenly one hump is coming. That is eminence. Hypobranchial eminence, derived from fourth arch. There's only one in the midline. That's why it's only one. But there will be a pair of arytenoid swellings. This is derived from sixth arch. Fifth branchial arch, soon after its formation it disappears. You can clearly see this is the fourth arch. So this will be the sixth arch, not labeled here, but this is sixth arch. Arytenoid swellings arise from the sixth arch. They will be paired because they will not be in the midline. So I just now told you hypobranchial eminence rises from fourth pharyngeal arch or the branchial arch, whereas the arytenoid swellings, which are paired structure, arise from sixth branchial arch. Fifth branchial arch disappears soon after its formation. That is important. Okay. So what is the fate of these three swellings? So this hypobranchial eminence is there now. It will contribute to the formation of a lid which covers the laryngeal inlet. This lid is leaf-shaped lid and it's called epiglottis. Whereas the two arytenoid cartilages contributes to all the other cartilage except thyroid cartilage. I will tell you briefly what happens. This arytenoid swelling is there now. This arytenoid swelling will enlarge. The lower portion of the enlarged portion of arytenoid swelling will become a ring-like cartilage. What is that? Ring-like cartilage is cricoid cartilage. The upper portion becomes pyramidal shape. So obviously it is arytenoid swelling will give us to arytenoid cartilage. So the pyramidal shape cartilage is. Then near the apex of the pyramid there will be one wedge shape and one horn shape. Corniculate cuneiform is wedge shape. So that will be wedge. Both of these will form in the aryepiglottic bed. So all these cartilages are formed by sixth arch from arytenoid swelling, except thyroid cartilage. So this thyroid cartilage is actually formed by the fourth arch in the anterior plane. The two fourth arch cartilages will come and unite with one another. Later they become enlarged like a wings. They form the thyroid cartilage. The lamina of thyroid cartilage is formed by fourth arch mesenchyme, while the two lateral plates which meet in the midline, this gives rise to thyroid cartilage. So you know the inner surface of the fourth arch has already given rise to hypobranchial eminence, which has given rise to epiglottis. Now I am telling the outer aspect of the neck. There are two lateral plates which come and unite in the midline to form a shield-like cartilage called thyroid cartilage. This is important because it shields the vocal cord. So vocal cord is important. So it has to be shielded. Therefore, nature provides thyroid cartilage, whereas all the other cartilages of the larynx are formed by arytenoid swellings. So what happens to the laryngeal opening? Initially, the laryngeal opening is a circular opening. Later, it becomes like a slit later it becomes T-shaped. So initially when small and circular becoming a slit, later becoming T-shaped. That T-shape is nothing but laryngeal inlet. If you see the boundaries of laryngeal inlet, even here, anteriorly epiglottis, posteriorly the two arytenoid cartilages, on either side aryepiglottic fold of mucous membrane. So the laryngeal opening, which was initially small and circular, later becomes a slit, ultimately becomes T-shaped. Okay, that is about changes in the laryngeal opening. So this laryngeal lumen temporarily gets occluded at 4th week of gestation age as a result of epithelial proliferation. This is important. At 8th week of intrauterine life, the laryngeal lumen will get temporarily occluded, meaning blocked, because the child is not breathing. Okay, so the lumen gets blocked by the proliferation of epithelium. But what happens after 2 weeks is interesting. At 10th week of gestation, there is recanalization which occurs. So now, when there is recanalization, the interior of the larynx develops, and there is an outpouching in that interior is called as ventricle of larynx or the sinus of larynx. These laryngeal ventricles are bounded by mesenchymal tissue, meaning mesoderm, that condenses and then progresses into false and true vocal cords. So these false and true vocal cords are formed by recanalization. Imagine there is nothing like this. The larynx will be similar to trachea. It won't get vocal cords at all. So this process between 8th and 10th week results in very important development, that is vocal cord, which helps every human to communicate with other by speech. So laryngeal lumen temporarily gets occluded at 8th week. By another 2 weeks it undergoes recanalization, but now what happens? The recanalization happens in such a way it becomes like an hourglass appearance. That is, the upper portion is wider like a conical structure, lower portion is inverted conical. This recanalization is carved by the nature in such a way the middle portion is bulged out, and that is called as laryngeal ventricle or the sinus of the larynx. In addition, there is a formation of false vocal fold, that is the lowermost part of the quadrangular membrane, which is nothing but vestibular fold. The upper portion of the cricovocal membrane forms a true vocal cord. All this is important to form the interior of the larynx, which resembles a hourglass appearance. So ultimately, in summary, the larynx is developed from the endoderm of the foregut at 4th week of intrauterine life as a groove called as laryngotracheal groove. This groove deepens. When it deepens further, the edges of this pharynx, either side right and left wall, will fuse with one another, forming a septa. It's called tracheo-esophageal septa, which will be oriented coronally. The laryngotracheal diverticulum becomes enlarged. Upper portion gives rise to larynx, lower portion gives rise to trachea, because the name itself is saying laryngotracheal diverticulum. The lowermost portion gives rise to two buds, they are called as lung buds. It gives rise to lung. So some of the unique points in this is all the laryngeal cartilages are developed from mesenchyme of branchial arches. The thyroid cartilage forms from the 4th arch mesenchyme as the two lateral plates meet in the midline. Whereas the arytenoid cartilage, corniculate, picoid cartilage, tracheal cartilage, all these cartilages are derived from 6th branchial arch. The epiglottis is developed from the lower portion or the caudal portion of the hypobranchial eminence, that is on the inner aspect of the pharynx. There is one hypobranchial eminence. The lower portion of the hypobranchial eminence forms a lid for the larynx. That is nothing but epiglottis. Please note, all the intrinsic muscles of the larynx are developed from the mesoderm of 4th and 6th arches. They are branchial arch or pharyngeal arch. The nerve of the 4th and 6th arch is vagus nerve. So vagus nerve is 10th cranial nerve. So when the muscles are developed from 4th and 6th arch, even the muscles should be supplied by vagus nerve. So all the muscles of the larynx are derived from 6th arch, which is supplied by recurrent laryngeal nerve, branch of vagus nerve, except one muscle. It's called cricothyroid, which is situated on the outside of the larynx. If you want, you can see one of my video on the laryngeal muscles. So cricothyroid is sitting on the outside of the larynx, so it's supplied by external laryngeal nerve. So 4th arch muscle is supplied by external laryngeal nerve. That is also a branch of this. So that is about the summary of the larynx development. Like and share this video with your family and friends. Don't forget to press the thumbs up button if you like this video. Subscribe to my channel and press the bell button.